My name's Tom Cody from Applied CAD Solutions. I do a lot of management for companies, CAD management, whether it's SolidWorks, hate to say it, AutoCAD, CAD Key, but also EPDM, work group, a little bit of Adept. So I do a lot of variety for companies. In doing that CAD management, you can't help but having to do some macros. I'll state it right up front, I'm not a programmer. I've taken a couple classes back when I was in college doing Fortran and regular basic. That's about my real limit of training on API. What I do have though, I did actually take the SolidWorks API fundamentals. This is going back, I took it back in '05. I believe they still offer it. Resellers, they are tough to come by to teach it because not many people take it. Another book I would highly recommend, I have an old one. Again, that was around the time I started writing macros. But there's one by Mike Spence, and I believe he has this updated. It's called Automating SolidWorks. This one's '06, but I would highly recommend looking at Mike Spence's latest books. They're really good. They cover a lot of different stuff. I brought it just to show you. I'm going to guess it was somewhere in, I don't even really remember, but you know, it's not going to break the bank to get a book like that. You can probably get your company to even pony up something for it. So those are kind of what I used to get started. But you know, I'd like to say, you know, let's try to keep it casual. If you guys have questions, please, you know, please ask. You know, I'll try to answer them. Like I said, I'm not a programmer. I just do a lot of APIs, so I figured this was a good way to say for the beginners, for you guys, if you've never written any or haven't played on it, because I'm not a programmer, maybe I can help in a term that we can all communicate in. So what we're going to cover, what is an API or a macro? How do you go about starting your first program? And actually, we'll record some, and I'll show you the steps I do. Doesn't mean it's the best way, but it's worked well for me. Editing your macro, understanding what you're looking at. That's probably the hardest thing people have. They record a macro, they really don't know how to read it. They don't know what they're really looking at and trying to decipher it. In this one, you will use a lot. Figuring out why it doesn't work. That's part of programming to me anyway, is it doesn't work. Sometimes I record a macro and I rerun it right away and it doesn't work. Gets a little frustrating, and it's just where to look, how to ask for help, you know, kind of where you can go for help and stuff like that. Testing your macro and then adding your macro to your toolbar. A lot of people don't even realize how you can just add it in very easily. So API is an application programming interface. Basically, it's Visual Basic, which is an object-oriented program. That's what it stands for, is object-oriented. We're going to try to stay away from that because that could easily fill up a day discussing that, never mind a session, just the libraries and objects. But pretty much everything you do has its own version of API, whether it's SolidWorks, eDrawing, you know, Enterprise PDM, Word, and actually Workgroup PDM. But it's not just related to SolidWorks. All your Office products, Microsoft Office, deals with APIs. And Adobe and all kinds of stuff. And you can mix them in. It's just making the calls to that particular application. And that's what we're saying, those libraries. And I'll show you how to add it in, but we won't dive too deep into those because of time. So, you know, how do you determine the need for a macro? I like to look at it, if it's things you're going to do over and over, like in this case, getting custom properties copied from a model to a drawing. Basically, you know, I've been CAD admin for years. I've been doing CAD admin since, I don't know, early 90s. On SolidWorks since 96 when I started on it. I get really bothered if somebody puts their custom properties in a model and not in a drawing. I'm very picky, methodical. I get upset by that. So this was actually my very first program I wrote. My very first API was, and it goes to after you've gone through and you've added your custom properties into the model, you know, drawn by description, part number, rev, all of that kind of stuff. Now you got to open your drawing, you got to go to File Properties, and put them back in if you want them in both places. That's error prone. People aren't going to do it. They're going to skip it. You know it, I know it. It sounds good in theory. You say, it's only going to take you a couple minutes. They're not going to do it. Everybody's under the gun to get something done. Or the way I wrote the macro was, now you open up your drawing and you just select an icon. It reads the first part in a tree. It opens that part, or whether it's a part or an assembly model. It opens it, copies all the custom properties down, closes the model, goes back to the drawing, and writes them into the model. But you do it just by selecting one icon. So as long as it takes it to do that open, which it's already in RAM if it's a drawing, so it's normally pretty quick, this whole thing, most files it'll run in a couple of seconds. Now you get a pretty good argument to go back to your designers, drafters, engineers and say, you couldn't have hit that button and ran this icon? It's pretty easy at that point. Another one, this was actually my second one, and this is the one we'll actually do today, is we'll work on this. Saving a release drawing as a PDF. Pretty much, majority of companies do that, and what do? You have to open your drawing, you have to go to File, Save As, navigate to the folder. A lot of times people are putting the rev in it, so they have to add the dash rev and whatever the rev is in the back. Select OK and close your drawing. Or you can just go to open your drawing, select an icon. I do a little PDF icon, and it just opens, it just does everything for you in the back, reads the revision custom property and things like that. So we're going to walk through this one here, and so we'll build a let's save as a PDF. Basically what you want to do is plan out what you want the macro to do and break it down and record it into small sections. So that's what we'll do, is we're going to record a few and we'll cut and paste them in and build one. It's a lot easier, and why I do that is, anybody that's ever tried doing this, you try recording a big macro doing 15 things, there's going to be a few things that it doesn't do right, and it's going to screw you up. I have yet to see one that you could record it doing 10 things and then save that macro, hit run again, and try to run it and have it actually work, even on the same file. It just doesn't always copy over and do it right. So what we'll do is we'll record it in small sections and piece it together. So things you might want to include in this macro where you're trying to save as a PDF is verify that it's a drawing. You want to make sure you get a SolidWorks drawing if you're going to save it as a PDF. Most companies. You want to be sure it's on sheet 1. So you want to, if you have a multi-sheet drawing, you want to bring it back to sheet 1. Not a must. They fixed that a lot back when I first started writing them. Especially e-drawing would seem to start from the sheet you were on. So if you had a 10-sheet drawing and it was saved on sheet 5 and that's where you were, that became kind of sheet 1 and it kind of morphed through, and it would tend to screw you up a little bit. Yes?
Real quick, is this going to be available that we can download it?
Yes. SolidWorks World actually puts them all online, but if you come up and give me a card, I'll have no problem to email it to you as well.
I just want to make sure I don't have to try to catch it.
Okay, no, I have no problem to email it to people either if they want. But other things you might want to do is a zoom to fit, get custom property revision, because we want to build it into the file name. We want to build the path you want to save to. Save it as a PDF with the correct file name, including the revision. Resave the SolidWorks drawing, and then close the drawing. But an important one here, build error codes. Let's say we use the example, you want to verify it's a drawing. We want to verify that if, you don't want to just, and SolidWorks can do that for you. You can say if it's not a drawing, just end the program. But then they'll hit that button all day long, not realizing why isn't it working. Something's wrong with your program, it doesn't work. So instead you build a little error code and you just say, if it's not equal to this, and we're going to hopefully have time to get through quite a few of these. We won't have time to get through them all. I kept rolling through this, trying to figure out a way we could get through all of this, and I just can't do it in the time we have. But we'll get through as many as we can, and that's showing you the example. And I actually have one of these that I could send people. It's pretty similar to this right here, with if somebody wants it to use as a base. And then end your macro. There's one I didn't put in here. One that you want to do is you want to always test it as well. You know, this is all good, but you got to test this really, really heavily before you deploy it out to an engineering department. So first thing most people don't even realize is how do you turn on, how do you turn it on? If you go up here, you can just go right up, right click on your top panel, and you can go into macro. And it adds a bar for you. Now, in there, it highlights, there's the bar. I kind of wanted to go back here as much as I try to stay in SolidWorks, and we're going to get there and do a lot of it in there soon. But this was a good one to kind of give you a pointer of what it covers, which is your run, your stop, record, new, and edit. So we're going to start with record. So let's go back here. Well, we really need a model, so I'm going to have to make a real quick model. I'm going to make my famous block, which actually, if I was on my laptop, I actually wrote a macro to do this because I make them so often. I have a macro on my laptop. That's when you know you do this way too much. Shut that off. So we'll just keep it called part 1 and we'll put it in here. And now we'll make a drawing of that now that it's saved. Let's go, ooh, that's right, metrics backwards. Or opposite. So now that we have this in my, okay. You notice I don't have the macro bar right now. And that's because I turned it on at the main. Typically, I'll end up having to turn it on like at model and drawing if I'm doing a program that's part of a model as well. We're going to stay in drawing, so really you want to turn it on up here. And you can take this and drag it to the end to not eat up all your screen. That was one of the complaints that I had when I first started. You know, it wasn't as common to have 24-inch monitors back when I started writing these. So as I said, we're going to record. And what's the first thing we're going to record? We'll just say, let's do it as a save as. But we'll, as much as I said we don't want to do too many things at once, I'm going to zoom out. Shut that off. I'll record, and I'm going to do 2 things at once. It doesn't tell you it's recording. That's the first thing that screws everybody up. And they'll go on and they'll get sidetracked. They'll start recording 1 thing or 2 things, and somebody comes over and asks them a question, and before you know it, they just recorded an hour's worth of work. And this program takes you 10 minutes to save. I've actually done that. So the first thing I'll do, and I'll make the recommendation, is if you have hotkeys too much, you know, if the SolidWorks hotkeys you can use. If you've hotkeyed or if you have a 3D controller or something, try not to use those commands as much when you're recording your commands. Try to actually use the Windows or the SolidWorks ones. You get a little bit better. I've hit a few instances where it didn't quite work right. So we'll do a zoom to fit. That one's a pretty safe one. And now we'll do a file save as and go to a PDF. And sure, we'll put it, let's make a, you can see I have a folder called coffin. I actually had a part, my wife's first model she made in SolidWorks was a coffin. And I was going to use it, but people gave me grief that I can't do that in a presentation. So we'll just call this PDFs. And there's a reason I want to make another folder. So let's just save it there as part. All right, so that was pretty benign. You know, it did its normal saving. Now we want to stop the program. And it's going to ask you, what do you want to name it? I'm not going to put it in my PDFs folder. I'm going to go back 1. And I already have a macro 1, so I'll use, you know, macro, I don't know, let's go 10. Now, in SolidWorks, you can set up an option in here, right here in your main options dialog, which is automatically edit macro after recording. If I had that on, as soon as I recorded it, it would pop up. I don't have to go down to the bottom and toggle to it. So I do typically turn that on while I'm programming. And you go up here and I guess I have to open it. I have to actually go in and edit it. See, I always turn it on, so I didn't realize that. On my laptop, it's on. So here's what we got. It's a pretty basic program, but I wanted to walk through the start of understanding what you're looking at. An apostrophe. For anybody that's programmed back in a few years ago with Fortran or regular basic, they used to call that a remark or a rem comment. Now it's an apostrophe, but now they call it just a comment. So those are commented out. So it actually will always tell you what it did. So it recorded it by the admin, the date. I do recommend that you do some more of these as you're going, and you, is that too small? Should I try to adjust my resolution? So one move up. I'm sorry, would it help if I tried that? All right. Okay, I'm sorry. When I saw this gentleman move up, it kind of dawned on me. Kind of assumed they had this set up, but let's see. Let's try it. Guess we won't know till we get out of here and go back to it. Is that any better, or did it make it?
From the Visual Basic Editor, you can go to Tools, Options, and then just change the font size of the actual code.
So what do you do? I have never.
Go to Tools,
Yeah? Options. I've never had to adjust that.
go to Editor Format, and now over there on the right, you can adjust it.
Oh, how's that? Even a little bigger? Would that be better yet? Is that Keith? I've never had to adjust that, so that's good. I'll go here bigger yet. Keith's actually doing a presentation, is it tomorrow? Yeah. So he's got another one on the API for people that are looking for it. So it's starting to understand what you're looking at. We said we have some, your apostrophe being your comment out. A dim, you're going to see that all the time. A dim is just a declaration. So you're declaring what you have. You're declaring a part is an object, or your SolidWorks app is an object. I said, I try to stay away from this a little bit, but you're going to see we'll be using at least as a string, which is basically just a text format. I always, SolidWorks, it says set SolidWorks app equal to application.solidworks. Whenever you record, it puts this little underscore and it puts it on the next line. It works, it's fine. I don't like it. I'm kind of picky about that. I like it in one line when I can. I mean, this will get too long that you do need to, but for now it works. Why carry on to multi-lines? Now I hit zoom to fit twice, so I've got it in here twice. So let's just take one. We can delete it out. We don't need it. And what's it doing? It's doing a part save as 3. That's kind of its library that it uses. That's a part of this object we're talking about, the object-oriented programming. So what you can do, and I said we'll touch on it real briefly, which is your objects that it puts in. These are all the libraries, basically, it includes, just by recording this macro. By default, that's everything it gave me. If you were going to Excel, you can see this is really big. It's got e-drawing, it's got Excel. I believe those are under Microsoft. So if you were going, all your Microsoft, you can do Active Directories, ActiveX. So you can do basically almost anything you can think of, you can almost do in an API that you can tie together. Most of the time you're going to find it's going to give you what you need. If you record in segments, like I was suggesting, what you may find is if it doesn't work, when you piece it into your actual final that you're building, sometimes you got to go back and look. Maybe it needed a different library that you don't have turned on. So you have to go look and make sure that you have the right one turned on. So it builds, as I said, library. They use this one, Zoom to Fit 2, Save as 3. What that is that's in the API code. There's probably, most of these, there's probably still a save as 1, save as 2. What it is it means they updated it as they've gone along with different releases of SolidWorks. And what they do with that is they can't get rid of the old ones or else your programs won't work. So they'll keep them, and most of the time they'll work. Sometimes when you're going to a new release of SolidWorks, you actually have to test that. And sometimes you have to upgrade some of these. If the save as 2 doesn't work, sometimes you got to go look. And honestly, that gets very frustrating because you don't know what ones they always updated. It doesn't always tell you. It just gives you an error when you try to run it. That's one of the things. I don't know of a way around that. I don't know that there is one to get around that. It's just something that you have to deal with if you write some custom programs. Most people need those ones we were talking about, a save as and copy properties, things like that. Those are your most common, and those don't get affected a whole lot. So here's my main. It's just telling me it's running main, and here's the end. So I've just got this little program right here that it just says zoom to fit and save as. So we made a few minor tweaks. Let's just tweak that, and now I'll say save it as part 2 in that PDFs folder. Because right now, this is what they call hard-coded. I have the address, the folder location, and the name of my file. Right now, it's hard-coded. So every single part, no matter what drawing I open, if I run this macro, it's saving it to that folder with that file name. And it'll keep overwriting whatever I have. So those are some of the things we'll work on, is how to get your file name and stuff like that. So in here, I just want to run this. Easy way to run it, easy way to run it is there's your commands right up top. You can see it's run, a break, and we're going to cover some breaks coming up, and you reset. So you basically stop it so you can start it over. My drawing is still open. I'm actually going to close my model. I don't need it. I just want my drawing at this point, and I'll toggle back. Something new, anybody that's set these up in older releases, anybody that's tried to do this in earlier releases than SolidWorks 13, this one here, you'll see it's behind. It's basically same icon. In 12 and all of that, it actually puts a separate icon for your API. And it looks slightly different. So I hit that up on one company that was kind of, it's not opening and it's not at the bottom. So to run it, because I have my SolidWorks open, I can go right back to SolidWorks right up here. But because I have SolidWorks in a drawing open, we can just try it right here. Basically, it just ran. Let's go to that folder and make sure. We're going to need that anyway for other stuff. Remember, we made a subfolder called PDFs. There's our part 2. And, okay, I didn't realize I'd have to totally load it. Sure, we'll accept that. But there's my PDF. So now we have it, as we said, truly hard-coded at this point. So what are some of the other things we said we wanted to do? Let's go through, maybe let's get, here's where you got to start doing some extra things. This was the real easy part, zoom to extent, save as, because SolidWorks easily does that for you. Let's try the next one. Let's go up here, let's go to properties, let's go to custom, and let's add revision. And let's add it in over here. Let's add an A. Pretty benign. That's really what we want to come out in our file name. They do have it tied to the format. So now if we go in and we record another macro, I leave this one open. We can leave it open. Let's record. And let's go up here. Oh, I always do like a zoom to fit or something inside. It gives me a base point that I can start with. So I know it at least recorded. If I don't get what I'm looking for, at least I say, okay, it was seeing what I was doing. So I always do a zoom out or a zoom in or something. So now let's go up here, let's go to properties, and let's see if we can copy something. So let's try this here, the whole row. We'll just copy C, or actually, and then we'll go and open the model. Said I didn't need it, but I did. And I wanted to actually open it so we could see it. And let's paste that in here. And the reason I'm doing that is I wanted to deal inside of the custom property so we could see it. So let's say okay. Let's close that. Sure, we'll save it because we want to see that anyway. And now we can stop our macro. We've done a little bit inside again. Remember we said those small sections. Let's call this one 11. We did a 10. Well, this one's a lot bigger because we did a lot more. We really didn't do much. What did we really do? We did a zoom to fit. We added a custom property and we copied it out, opened the model, copied it, and closed it. So we really didn't do much, but it gives you a lot of stuff here. But remember we said it's part of learning how to walk through it and start looking at what are you looking at. Well, here's our SolidWorks application again. Our SolidWorks is the active dock. We do a zoom to fit. Our part file summary info. Well, that's kind of interesting. We selected by ID and we opened our drawing or our view one. I went to view one and I selected that. So it's saying you selected by ID because I picked on it, and it was actually drawing view one. So it's learning to walk through, and there is no easy way to do this. Like I said, I had no formal training. It's starting to figure it out, and I'm going to show you. Go online. The forums are really good. So the SolidWorks forums, the help, and one of the things we're going to do is I'm actually going to show you. We're going to go into Google, and believe it or not, you get different if you use Google, if you use Bing, you get different results. So you've got to try things and start deciphering what you want to use. But you know what I'm not really seeing here? Is I'm not seeing the easy way to do getting my custom property. It really didn't. Here's opening my file. Here's where I make it active. I went back to my drawing and I made it my active again. I activated Doc 2, but I see nothing in here that tells me that it did anything to my custom property. And I knew that. SolidWorks, it does not record for some reason going into custom properties. It just will not record it. That was one of the most frustrating parts I had when I was learning to do this. And that's, I think, why I had some of them that were an hour's worth, because I was trying it so heavily and then I'd get distracted and forget. So you can see I can go back to my other program, or I have this one, and I can't find it. So I'm kind of down to, maybe we need to go online and try finding it. You know, maybe that's the best way to go. It's very specific to what you type in. So let's try Google first. So what I always make sure I do is note that it's SolidWorks API. So we might want to say custom props or custom property. Property in SolidWorks API. And see what it comes up with. Well, this one looks pretty promising, but we don't know yet till we click on it and see. Now, if you look through, I told you it's different every time. I did this morning, and my second one is different than that. And it was a good one I wanted to show you. And it's right here. Get custom properties of reference part. But that's a different language. That's C#. That's not Visual Basic or API. It might get you close, but chances are that command's not going to work. And you'll see another one called C++. That's another one. Those are typically people writing as an EXE or a SolidWorks add-in, not just an icon being inside of SolidWorks. So you got to start learning what to look at. I wanted to purposely show that out. So let's see what this one does for us. Told you every time you do this, it's going to be a little different. And that one's small as well. What do you do? I don't use that. Oh, okay. It's opposite of SolidWorks. That's not right. Oh, don't go there. Oh. So, what does it tell us it's doing? Remember I said you want to comment? Well, this is actually all of their comments. It's precondition and postconditions. I highly recommend you do that. You're going to forget what you did later, or you're going to leave a company and somebody's going to have this. It's really convenient if you know what you want to have. Basically, at least postcondition, the custom property data is printed to the immediate window. Well, instead, we want to get what that is, but that gives us a start. This might be close. Right here, they're getting it, custom property. That's starting to tell me something. And honestly, this is a different one than I got this morning. Again, when I went through it, I've gone through this a few times trying to figure out what's the most we can cover and stuff. And this one is different than what I had this morning. I clicked on a different one. So we're going to be live. We're doing this. We're winging it as we go along. So it says, what do we want to do? We want to open a part that contains a reference part with a custom property and a value. And we want to open the part. Well, we don't really care if we do that. What we care about is we want to open this. We want to get that value. So we said we were going to do a declaration. This one they do a value as a string and a value out as a string. And we're going to be cutting and pasting some of this and trying it. Because the first thing I try to do is I actually would take this whole thing a lot of times and I'll copy it and go into here and paste it in. So this one we know isn't going to do us any good. So I got an open box. Why not take advantage of it and paste this one in? Well, my red gives me some concerns right there. So even though you're copying from SolidWorks, and this was good that I did this, SolidWorks, just because you're copying from it, doesn't guarantee you it's going to work. This one here, we've got things, we're doing our sub is right here. So sometimes, option explicit, I think. Yeah, that just needed a line. Then we have main. For some reason, some of my breaks got taken out. But there's my exit sub. I think we want to put this stuff in front of it. So let's cut that and try it. So you end up playing around. Even though we're going online and we're copying it from SolidWorks, remember, we're doing it from their VBA help. Doesn't guarantee you it's going to work. In fact, majority of the time, it won't. Very few times I've actually seen it run. But what's wrong with it? Well, let's see what it at least throws up as an error. What's the first thing? So we have a syntax error. So that helps me out right there. So we have a Boolean. We want get custom property, a property name. So did they name their property name? Property name. No, I have to put one in there. So let's go with revision. And let's see what that does for us. So I had a program running. I had it set to run. Because I changed a major piece, it came back and said it's going to, or it's expected, in this case, it's a compiler error. It wants an end of statement. And I think that's what it wanted on that one. So I think we're getting closer. We don't know yet, but I think we're getting closer just because we fixed up a few things. And let's see if this will run now. I'm going to actually stop it and hit to start over. So it doesn't like that one. And that's a debug, and that's a print. I'm not as concerned with a print. So let's see if we can get something. Then I work on cleaning it. Well, it ran. We didn't see it do anything, but now it ran. So you want to step through and see it do something, you can put stops in here. And let's see if I can put another one so I can show you. Let's run it. It stopped there. It highlights it in yellow for you, so it's pretty convenient. You can hit this run again, and it'll go to the next stop you put in there. If you didn't put one in, it would go till the end. Or you can step through it, and you do that by pressing F8. And it'll go through line by line. And it'll walk through. So really, what we're trying to get is we're trying to get this right here. Right? That's really what we're trying to get. So let's do some debug things. because now it came down here and it said your revision is equal to this variable called val. So it came in here, and if I hover over this, it tells me val is equal to A. So it did read it. It's read this now. Now, that doesn't mean now that this is going to work in my program, because we have some differences, and I'll show you when we bring it in. But this is a good stop for me. So what I'll do is I'll start off by getting rid of my stops. And debug's a print that you can see, but let's do one other thing in here. And right here, if you want to see on your screen so you can really see this, I use this a lot. You can do the debug print, which I do use, and you can view to see that. But the other one I do is called MSG box, message box. And what do I want to show? I want to show val. That's all I care. Or I could even do better and do in quotes, rev is equal in a space to val. Now it's going to give me an error. And I knew that. It's saying, I expected an end of statement. Because you always put what you want it to type in quotes, and then this is your actual variable. I knew right away in here, because of the editor, it showed up in red. So what I really need is I need it to do both. I want it to say rev is equal to, and I want it to say what the actual value is. So now let's run it, and it pops up a little message box. Pretty easy to get there. You can comment it out later. It's common for me to have multiples in there, that I'll have a lot of them. Because it's a nice convenient way. Gives me a hard stop. It lets me look at where I am in the program. If you have a problem where it's crashing on you, this is a nice way to debug it. So, excuse me. All we care about is this middle section. We already have a main sub in our program. We already have an end of sub if we go back to the other one. So let's copy this and let's go back to our main macro. And let's go in here. We want it before the file name. So let's go in here and do this. Now, some differences we have. Remember, we already set part is equal to active doc, and we set part as an object. Well, here it says set SW model. We haven't done anything with SW model. We did part. That's just a name that somebody used. I've seen SW model, SW drawing, part, my file. I've seen about everything because I'm scouring the blogs all the time and the forums looking for it, and it's amazing what people use. But the reality is we already have something set here. So let's ignore that one. We already have SW app equal to that one. So this one I'll actually delete because it's a duplicate statement. So we'll actually get rid of that one. Now, we say set model, SW model doc extension is equal to SW model. But we already said we're not going to use SW model, we're going to use part. And this is the stuff, it just takes a while to go through and kind of learn. There is no magic way shy of taking some real VB classes to get some of this stuff. And there's a lot of the help. These other guys, they do a good job of pointing it out, but they're in the same boat as me. You know, a VB is a semester or two in college. You don't walk away from a 1 hour or an hour and a half session becoming a programmer. It just gives you ideas, it gives you thoughts and places you can go and some help. So we're going to say that one. And let's see. Oh, I haven't declared what my Boolean is because I don't have that up here. I used the full word. So let's toggle back to our other one and look for this here. But the other thing I haven't done is I haven't declared, over in the other program, I didn't declare my value and my value out. Those are commands they're using. So let's just copy those in. And this is, unless you're a true hardcore programmer, this is probably the way most of you guys would go about making your macros. You're going to copy and paste, trial and error, and see what works, what fails on you, get frustrated, probably swear at it a few times. Maybe you have to put it down for a week and pick it back up. That's all common stuff. Don't let it get to you. It's not you, it's the reality. I'm going to give this a quick run. It's going to stop here anyway, but let's try it right here because I just want to see if I can get that far. And I want to run my main. Remember, here's my main. Let's try run. Well, that's pretty good. Let's see if we step through it where it's going to crash. I'm just hitting that F8. That one you want to do a lot. I didn't expect it to get that far. I figured I'd fail before that for some reason, but that's good. Now, I'm not going to save the file yet. Remember, the command in yellow, it has not done yet. That's the next one it's going to do. So if I stop it now, I've just saved making that. So when we go in a minute, one of the things we're going to add is closing the drawing. So when you're testing it, everything you're doing, you can end it before you hit that. So you don't have to keep reopening your drawing. Or you can comment it. Once you know it works, you can comment it out so it won't close it, and you just turn it back on at the end. So this worked pretty well, and we know it's A. So that's pretty good. We want that in our file name. So we already know that the value, this value as it runs, is equal to A, or whatever value. We're going to test it and actually change the revision as well. So let's go in here. Remember now, here's the hard-coded, the entire path and file name. But now we want to piece something in here. Remember, anything you write that you want it to show up, we did that up here. The rev is equal to this. So we want it in quotes. So we want to go all the way up to part 2 in quotes. So I'm just going to modify it. We want it to be that. But what else do we want? We want it, well, actually, we want a little more, because we probably want it to say dash, hyphen, rev, and maybe a space. That's what we really want. So this will be named part 2 with the hyphen rev. Or let's say maybe you don't want the hyphen, the dashes, spaces in there. But you probably definitely want a space after your word rev. So I built it in. Well, now it's good. If I get off of here, it's going to give me an issue. It doesn't like that. So it expected something, a separator, not a period. So we have that. And the next thing we want is to be and val. Okay, that makes sense? But now we need and we need that piece at the end again, the PDF. So that's basically, we just built, and we'll test that, and we can use the same, it'll be a new file name. But let's change our revision first. And let's make that a B. We'll even go with an uppercase. Now there's actually commands, and I don't remember what it is, but there's commands in here that you can force whatever's in here to automatically be uppercase. So I've seen people use that for, you always hit the engineers that want to type in lowercase for their description. You can write this macro to basically convert it to uppercase. That's another one I've seen done. So why don't we just run this through and see what we get? So we'll just start it again. It's going to stop there. I'm just going to let it run rather than step through. Okay, it told me it's Rev B. That's a good start. Now let's go check it out and see if we have a Rev B. And we do. If we open that, it's real small, but there is a Rev B in there. So that's good. We're making some progress. Now, what I do is, even though you want a hard-coded path, most companies use a hard-coded path for where they want to put their release PDF. I've seen most companies they call it, release for approvals, or release for production or something. So it's normally a fixed spot that goes to. So let's do that one. So let's declare something up top, and let's say our dim, let's maybe call it file path, is equal to, not equal, as string. And this is what they call IntelliType. As long as you're in here and you're set up right, as you start going, by default, it knows that if you make a declaration, it doesn't care what you name it, but as soon as you say as, this is all your options you can do. You can do a string, you can do a variant for a variable, you can do all kinds of things. A Boolean, you can do an object. But in this case, we just want a font, text. So we're just going to say we want it as a string. So now we have file path. Maybe what we want to do right here in front is, let's say, actually, I want to actually show you this. Let's go file path. Now you'll notice, type right. You'll notice up here I did it with an uppercase F and an uppercase P. Down here I haven't yet. So let's go as equal to, and it's going to give me an issue because I'm going to click off of it. It expects me to do something. So it gives you some kind of hint. I expected some expression in there. Well, I'm going to give you one here. I want it to be this. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to put it here with a close quote. And you notice it fixed itself. It put the spaces after, but it also matched it up to here with the way my uppercases. I purposely do that. That's my visual clue as I'm typing something that I typed it right. I'm connected. It knows it. If that hadn't fixed itself, I had a problem, whether it was a typo or something's not right somewhere. So now we have to get this part out of here. Except we know we have to tell it the path. So that's our file name. So maybe in the front now, we actually need it to say file path and I'm not even going to put the space in there, and you watch. It fixed it for me. That helps give me my visual clue that things are right. If that hadn't fixed and spaced and fixed my spelling, I had an issue. But now we'll call it 3. Because we do still have that problem, is no matter what we do, we're still using that same file. So now, as I said, we're just going to build through and keep working. Next one is, this one here we'll test. And this is exactly how I go about doing it, is I just keep reiterating through it and trying it and testing it. So there it is. I could have taken that out, but we'll just rip through. There's my rev. Now if I go to that folder, I have part 3, rev B. Exactly what I told it. So we're making pretty good progress on this. We still have a major one to get, which is the file name, and that's probably the toughest and going to take the longest. So I'm trying to build other things to give you an idea of things you do and try. So now let's go back to SolidWorks. And you notice I did my zoom again. And let's record another one. I'm recording. It really doesn't give you a visual clue that it's recording. And I'm going to do my zoom to fit. Like I said, I like to make sure. And I'm going to say File, Close. If I find myself here. And yeah, we'll save it. Why not? Oh, I hadn't even saved my drawing yet. Sure, we'll save it. So now I can stop recording. Or what I will actually do is I will reopen it. That's okay. You know, that's not bad. It's not a bad too many steps. Hopefully that's okay. Let's stop it. It's asking me what to name it. So we'll go with 13, keeping my series going. Now what did I do? Well, I did a part save as. I opened my doc. Well, first of all, what it did is it set my part equal to nothing, and it saved my drawing, closed my drawing. Those are pretty good clues. You know, even though it's cryptic, this is very cryptic stuff it's doing, it at least told me it closed doc. So it kind of gives me that. So why don't we take these and copy them over? And remember we talked about different things. Look at this one. Open doc is at 6 levels now. So they've changed that 7, they're on their 7th time going through that, because they normally start with just the base name. So after we save it, we want to close it. I never add major piece, then that's not a big piece, but I still don't do that without trying it, always. Because the last thing you want to do is work on it for 4 hours, adding code that worked all in its own pieces, then you pull it together, it doesn't work. Yeah, it gives you those errors, you know, the debug places, but it's really tough. And the most common thing you'll find is what I showed you here. The part versus SW model, SW drawing, all of those pieces, it really will tend to screw you up that it references something else. And it'll tell you it's not declared. If we turn this one on, it would actually tell us. In fact, maybe let's leave it on and let you see. I got it stopped there. Let's see. How come it went through? Oh, because it didn't matter. I made it an active dock. That was a bad example. That was a bad one. So I'm going to stop it because I don't want to make it active dock. If I did other things, it would give me an issue because this isn't declared. That isn't declared as anything. So let's run this through. I can stop this now. I don't need that anymore. It'll go through, tell me my rev, and it closed my drawing. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to reopen it now, but now let's go look in that folder. It made my file. So we're pretty happy. I mean, we're getting there. We're working our way through. In fact, let's go back here because we've gone through quite a few things. We went through this. Actually, I didn't really show you too much, although it brought us there. It brought us to this help. But SolidWorks also has, when you go up here, it has API help, which is what that screenshot was. Maybe it's coming. But they have their API help right in here as well. Basically, that Google that we did brought us right into the Dassault Systems API help. So it brought me right to it, just a different way to get there. My first round, honestly, I don't go to the API help first. I go to Google. Number one spot, that's how I met up with Keith and a few others, and Mike Spence and a few others, is I just went in and started Googling. Then when I can't get it to work, just like everybody else, I go online and I go to the forums, and there's an API forum. So if I toggle back to the PowerPoint, actually easier to do this. If I toggle back here, you have to go in, you have to be on your customer portal to go into the forums. So you have to log in. There is, under SolidWorks, there's actually a section for API. Now, that's not one that I can answer a lot of people on. In all honesty, I'm not a programmer. I do look at it. I wish I could answer because a lot of people help you and answer to me. I try to pay it forward instead. I try to help out on the SolidWorks because I know SolidWorks very well. API, I really don't. Normally I'm asking a question. Most people aren't going to be asking me for major things shy of writing these smaller macros. But right in there is the API section, and it brings you into something like this. Here's API examples. You'll notice, look at under discussions under API. There's 5,283 on the open discussions when I took this screenshot. That's a lot of things. Now, what I recommend, if you're going through this API help, I'll go back a month or two, and you'll be surprised how many that means. And you're just reading the names and you're going back in pages. And it tells you how long ago things were put up here. Once I hit 6 months, chances are SolidWorks has come out with a new release. They might have changed something, done something. Or, and I will look, depends on how desperate I am. Sometimes I'll post it and keep looking. People are really good about answering. There's a lot of them. Deepak he's awesome about it too. People that don't know who he is, he's around all the time. He's on the forums. I don't really know what he does for work because he's on the forums all the time. But he's got the right answers all the time. He's awesome. These guys are really good about helping you out. Look what somebody wanted. They wanted to rebuild the model by recorded API through a macro. Well, rebuilding is not that hard to do. You can force a rebuild. That's not that hard. But if this person doesn't know how to do it, that's one I could have answered for him by looking at one of my programs. I have them in there. I do it all the time. So I could have done that for him. But this is an awesome place to go. The one thing I'll say is in here, a lot of you guys use the forums? If you use the forums, if you don't, use them. They're awesome. Whether it's, I'm not saying just API, for SolidWorks, if you got Workgroup, Enterprise, basically any question you've got tied to a Dassault product, you can ask up here. And, somebody's up there answering them. Now they've added a thing, I think it was about a year ago. I don't even remember when they added it. Time flies, so it might have been a few. If somebody answers your question and they're right, there's a place in there you can do correct answer. It gives a little kudos to that person that gave you the correct answer. It shows a little respect and a little thank you. And I always go in and I always make sure I thank them up there as well. Correct answer, thank you. People appreciate that. It's worth doing. Because these guys, a lot of them, I assume, they come to work, they're working on SolidWorks, and they also leave this open in the background. And as something pops up, they go and do it. Or I know you can set up this to get emails. But you do need an active subscription to be able to do this. Here's the screenshot I had, which was similar, but it brought me to a different page. Then get custom property. Remember I told you it had the C+, the C#. I went to it anyway because I wanted to see. You can see I selected it. It wasn't going to help me with what I was doing. But look at these others. How to add custom properties to a SolidWorks. And that was May 10th, 2012. That's not that long ago. That's probably relevant because it's probably either SolidWorks 12 or 13. Oh, May 10th, it would have been 11 or 12. Chances are that's still going to work. The worst case is they went to a new, 3 or 2, 4 or 5 at the end. They did something like that. So they're pretty good scrolling through here. That one that I clicked on right here, this was my screenshot of it. And it got there a different way. It used SW model custom info 2. Just a different one. This one does work, except that it's not SW model, it's part. So as long as I change that, I could cut and paste this right in and I know it works. It would get me the same exact thing. My revision is equal to whatever that custom property is. It's a different command, right? They didn't use custom info 2. No, they use SW custom prop get 4. It works. So there's several ways you can get there. I think custom prop 2 is an old way. I think this is the new way to get there, the newer command. Did somebody say something? Oh, maybe I'm hearing next door. But I think the get 4 is a newer way to get there. They had newer commands inside of API. The other one will still work. I did it this morning. I know it still works. And I use it in a lot of programs I have. So we've built it now where we have the file name. What else did we say we wanted to get out of that? Let me go back. I know we want to get the file name. That's a tough one. So I'm kind of saving that towards the end because I'm afraid it's going to eat up a lot of time trying to get that one thing. And I'm afraid that we'll run out of time doing other stuff. Oh, we want to, maybe we want to do a resave and a rebuild, a forced rebuild. We talked about that. So one thing I'll point out, you can see I'm getting more macros added up here. That happens, but we're really saving this one. And I haven't saved in a while, so I think I will. I tend to do that. I forget to save my macros, and then all of a sudden I'm in trouble. So let's go back to our drawing, and let's record another one. Oh, I don't want to open it. I want to record. And let's go up here, and this one, where I zoomed out. Remember, it's recording what I'm doing. I'll zoom in now, and now I'll hit Control Q. I believe it records that one, because that is a SolidWorks kind of a standard thing, a force rebuild. So let's stop, and we'll go with 14, keeping in the same theory. And no, it didn't copy my force rebuild. I have my zoom to fit, my sheet. I don't have force rebuild. So I did expect that one to copy, to be honest with you. I believe it is, and we're going to try it. You'd probably want to do it before you save. So let's try, what would that be? I'm not even sure, because I expected it to copy that. So let's go back here. Let's try another one. Tools. I never do it this way. Isn't there a force rebuild up here? Anybody know that one? Because I've copied this before and it doesn't. That's what I did, and it didn't do it last time. Oh, I know. I think I want to be in a part to do that. Now I'll close the part and go back. We'll save it. Now let's try stopping it. And as I said, when I'm done, it's nothing for me to have 20, 30 macros. As long as you keep track of the one you want to keep, you're good. And force rebuild, right here. This is what I was looking for. And now that I did it, I remembered it didn't always copy it, or it didn't always record it. If I did it in a drawing, it would do it in a model. But it'll work in a drawing. So let's go here and let's copy that line out. And this is good, it did it as a part. So let's go back here, and we already have the Boolean up here. So let's try that. Maybe it'll work. I might have to call it long status or bool. I think I got to call it as a bool, but let's make sure. Oh no, I have it declared up here. So I'll stop it right after it. We don't need to go through it all. You rev, and it survived this. You can do things in here, and I've done it for companies, where you put a statement in here that says, if this fails, to then end the program and tell them they have a problem. That's good if you're really being really good and want to force them to have their models in drawings. Good. I personally like it. I never release files with rebuild errors and, as I call it, the cherry tree in my assembly with all of the red and gold. That whole thing just really bugs me as a CAD admin. And I was doc control manager for companies, so those two things, that just doesn't jive when you hand in a model and you go open it up for them to do something, and they've got all kinds of rebuild errors. So you can go through and you can add all kinds of things in here. Typically, you know what you're going to need. We've kind of said it. We close the drawing. Oh, maybe we want to resave it. Let's go back. I think we did it here, because we saved that. We already did save that. Did I actually hit save while I was in here? No, I didn't. Pardon me? I couldn't hear you. Macro 14 I did? Okay. Part doesn't look like it did. So let's do another one. Like I said, this is what you end up doing when you're trying to figure it out. A true programmer is going to know what a lot of these commands, and they'll know how to use the library to go in and get these commands. I'm trying to do it in a way of showing you how you go about it. If you don't have to know all the whole library structure and everything. So we're recording right now. So let's go File, Save As, and I'm actually going to do the same name and say yes, because I want to force it to give me that. And I'm not going to stop yet. I'm going to do this and hit a zoom, and I'm going to try it again just to file save, because I want to see if there's a difference, if it recorded both, if there's a difference. Oops, didn't want to do that. So now we're up to 16. The bad thing about it, in case you guys didn't notice, is it lists them all. You don't just close these. You have to close the whole thing and then reopen the top one. So you end up with a lot open, is really what happens. And I've been working on that one, right? Yeah. Hope so. Yeah. Right, not that one. No. Whew. Got myself nervous on that I was working on the wrong one. I've done that before too. Okay, look at this, my save as. There's my save as. Now what'll happen is, let's even go through, let's try typing it. I want you to see this. Long status equals part, which we've established. Save as 3. Now as soon as I open it, I don't have my IntelliType. I'm kind of nervous about that. But let's see, because we don't care what the name is. Let's just go to, let's just do this. I just want to see if it's going to fix itself. That's good enough. Just to see if it's going to go. And it fixed itself here, but I didn't get my IntelliType. It's a little strange. I expected as soon as I hit this dot that I was going to get it, because that's what you do on most of them. So let's copy this in, and let's see if I get it on mine, just to see if something's different. Oh, wrong one. See, I'm getting too many. This is when I have to scroll, I'll normally close it and just reopen it and start with this one again and kind of start it over. Oh, did I already? I had my PDF in there, so I already had it, and I wasn't paying attention to that. We actually had it to save as that one, but we can go in here now, and this is our SolidWorks again. But we could go through here and build our path in here. So we could do the same thing. And go here and do our file path. And in the part. And it fixed itself. So I'm pretty confident that that's going to go, but we'll stop it there and try it again. There's my Rev B. I can rem that out now. I kind of know that works. I'm at my save as that one, part 1, and it ran because it gave it to me. It didn't crash on me, so I know it ran. And you can still hover over. I like doing some of these. I'll hover over and see if I can get it. Here's my, how come it's not? Maybe all of a sudden it's not. We know it's working, but it's stuck on my Boolean. So I did this one again. I saved as my PDF. Set part is nothing. And we're through it. And your last one is the end the sub. So we've got a pretty good start on this. The tough one now, getting your file name. This is the toughest one to get. I spent a little while getting that, in all honesty. That one did take me a while. I had to go in and really start going through these things up here and going through. So if we go here, maybe we want to get, I don't know, let's try get file path or file name using SolidWorks API. Technically, you don't need the using, so just get file name, SolidWorks API. Remember, most applications out in the world have some kind of API, or a lot of them. So I always make sure I use SolidWorks. If I'm doing something in eDrawing, I make sure I type in eDrawing. It just helps narrow it down for you. So get names of open documents. VBA example. So it's going to bring me right to SolidWorks help again. But let's see what we get. So some things to learn about some of this is one of the things SolidWorks does for you is it keeps track of what you got. If it's none, if your SolidWorks doc is none is equal to 0, your part, if it's a 1, if your part type, if you do SolidWorks docs type, if it's a 1, it's a part. If it's a 0, you have nothing. If it's 2, it's an assembly. If it's 3, it's drawing. So this is pretty helpful. I do use this, and we're going to copy that in because we're going to want that. That's a good one to do, and we might digress and show you that one. But look at this, get first document. I know what this does. In fact, this is the one Keith helped me with. I needed first document out of a drawing. I needed the first, not the first document is your template. I needed the next document after that. I needed what my model was. So you can go get next after that, is that what I learned. So here, SolidWorks is nothing. This is doing some loops and checking things. So here's my title. Look at this. Title. SW model, well, we know ours is part, but get title, and then get path name, and get next. Remember we just said that get next I used? There it was. So let's try copying this get title, and then we'll do the other one is the get path name. Oh, I'm going to close that. I thought I closed out my API. So if I go in here, we want it before we save. You know, when we have our file path, we've already determined, so maybe we want it right here. And this one, well, we're not going to use model, so let's try part. See if it gives me my correcting, and it did. I'm going to stop it just right here and see if it gives me what I'm looking for. Oh, nope. So what didn't it like? Part was zoomed to fit. What didn't it like about that? Let's see, I was here. So this one was title. Well, I have to declare it as something. That's what I don't have. So let's go back to this. My thing is, I have file path. I've already used it. I don't want to, I could overwrite it, but let's just say we have to declare it. Remember, I said you want to declare up top? You don't have to. You can declare anywhere inside. But to be neat, let's go up here and say dim. Let's call it file path 1, just to be as string. So now we've got file path 1. So now I can say file path 1 is equal to this. And let's see if that goes. First one is it corrected my space for me. That's a good sign. Let's stop it and just try it again. Still doesn't like it. Doesn't seem to like that for some reason. Oh, there you go. See, error codes. Thank you. I don't have a drawing open. It doesn't know what to work on. Very good. That was a perfect example of why you build error codes. So let's just hit F8 and we'll walk through it. Uh-oh. Maybe I need to start it over. Wow. Uh-oh. How many people have seen that happen before? Pardon me?
That's when that symbol needs to change to an infinity.
Yeah. Uh-oh. That's thanks for playing. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to hear because this isn't my computer or anything. Honestly, though, SolidWorks does tell you to do these. They do read them. This is actually Enterprise that just crashed on me. But they do tell you to do this because they do read them, they do look at them, and they do take them serious. But I just lost my program. Good thing I had saved, but we did lose a little bit, but we can go back to it and see what we got. So let's go back here. Let's keep that. That's never happened to me before. So let's open up the drawing again. Now let's open up my macro. We said it was macro 10. Let's see where I was when I saved. Yeah, we lost a little bit, a few things, but that's okay. We get the gist of what that was. I'd like to get this other one in if we can, of get the title. I'd like to get that if we can. Because I think that's a good one to kind of show you. So let's say, let's go up here, let's copy that, even though I just wrote over my other part. So let's say we want it way up here actually. So let's say file path 1 is equal to, what did we say it was, get type. And I don't think that's what we want. That's telling us if it's a drawing and stuff. To do that one actually, I was doing that. But to get that I need to have I need to have this in here. Other than that, it doesn't seem to work. Telling it what to use, what to set those numbers at. That's kind of some of those little experience things tells you. So I can get rid of some spaces. So you notice it's indented. That's just for ease of reading. If you do an if-then statement, you normally indent things. It just makes it easier on the eyes going down to see. So let's see let's stop it right there to start with. We've declared what our file path 1 is, and we've set it. We want to run main. Let's see if I do F8. What is my file path? It says it's equal to nothing. So let's go back here and see what I'm missing. This is where it gets fun. Because we've said that our app is our applications and our model. So I would have get path. We want that one too. So let's copy that over and see if we can get it. This is where it gets fun. So I said this one can take a while to find it. I do have it all done. I could just go to it, but that's no fun for you guys. So let's try that one and just say, if I do that, it's get path name. But I have to set it to something. So I'm going to actually, I know why. Let's comment that out. It doesn't care what I have typed after it. I forgot to put the part in front. Part dot get type. Now let's see if it goes. So I'm going to stop it. Let's try it again. My file path there. So it's really not my path. I got that wrong. That's my type. Remember we said up here, if it's a drawing, it's 3. So let's stop this and let's fix this a little bit. And let's say dim file type. I want to fix this right up here. I do use the capital T and all of that just because it helps, like I said, it helps me down below as my string, and I can pick that. So I have my file type. So let's call this one file type instead. Because, and before we do that other one, let's verify that works. And we said our file type is 3. Let's build a little if-then statement. I love doing these. So let's say if file type, you can do an equals and let it continue, but in our case we want to say is not equal. That's not equal. You get equal to and greater than. So it's not, if file type is not equal to 3, then what do we want it to do? We want it to do a message box. Message box. In quotes, because it's text, we just want it to come up. You do not have I'm not the best typist. Have a SolidWorks drawing open. Okay? And then we can actually say this is VB. If you see up here, there's VB. If you do a critical, it actually, you'll see the message. And then what we'll say is end the program. Now I'll toggle over one and do a space bar and say end if. And now, remember I said you space in, you can do tabs. Tabs don't count in here, but this is pretty easy to see coming down, your if then, or your if statement. So let's try this again and say, if it's not that. So now it's reading this line. It didn't read anything in it because it's true. It is equal to 3, so it skipped right over it. So let's stop that and let's open up a model and show you, and we'll actually get the value. So now this is our active doc. If we go back to our program and try running that again, file type, there it is. Now it's reading into it, and we're going to get our message. The critical means you get the X. You can do exclamation points as warnings. You can do all kinds of different ones. Critical is an X. And now I'm going to end the program. It just stopped it for you. So you get a warning and it stopped. So we can make sure it's a SolidWorks drawing, because that's what you want them to run it on. So we know that part works. So we're getting there. Now let's go back into our program. Now really we're back to this get file type again, file path. We already set a variable saying file path 1. So let's go in here and fix this one, because I abandoned it for a while. And let's say file path 1 is equal to our part, because we've declared that, and get path name. So it fixed itself. So it doesn't guarantee me it's going to work, but it lets me know it's read it. So let's run through it. Let's just step through. It's going to skip that because it is a drawing. Now we're reading our file path. There's our file path. It listed it for us. Now to really do this, sometimes what I'll do here, I'm lazy. Told you I'm not a good typer. So I'm going to save typing wherever I can. Tab it in and maybe do this here and just say file path 1. Let's get a message box. Told you they're cheap. Now it's going to give me that. There's my whole path. Well, you'll notice what I have is the path and the file name. It's kind of okay, except we really want to get rid of the SLDDRW on the end. Or we want to, think about what you've got here is, and this is where I said it gets really tough to narrow it down. I'm not good at this part at all. I have ones I've done, and I go back and I narrow them down. But what you do here is really the path. We want to hard code the path. So really all we want is, in this case, the part 1. Because we've already said we have a hard-coded path. We're going to put the file, and we know we want it to be .pdf. So really, we want to just get to that name. This is where I struggle, in all honesty. I do it. I know how to do it by open up my other macros. This was one of the hardest things to get off of the search that I found. I went through this, and I kept searching it, and every time I search, defining get and part name, I get different results. I think I've gotten one that worked. Let's just see, get file name. In SolidWorks API. And well, we already got the name of open document, but that one gave us the whole path. So let's see what this one does. Get open file name. This one's .NET. It's a different language. It might help. It gives you ideas, but the commands are going to be slightly different. And it doesn't. Oh, it did tell me right here, .NET syntax. So I looked through this. Like I said, this was one of the tougher things to get. This one's C++. And it's older too. It's version 6. I believe that's old. So as you go through here, getting component names. I just toggle through and see if they help me. Let's close that. I end up looking through and scrolling through. Use component to, get components, cycle through each component to get path name. Use component to .name to. Let's take a look and see if that does anything for us. But this is one of the tougher things. We have our type, we have our path name, but really we want to narrow that down. So you can reuse something. So we can say file path 1 is equal to part, because I think it's going to be that, dot. And I don't think it'll be component. I think it just might be this. Let's see if it crashes on us. I guess that's first thing. It fixed the type for me, so that's a good start. And let's just see what I get. It's going to stop there, which is good. I should have commented that one out, because that's my full path. That's good. Now it's going to do that one, and it didn't like it. And I said that might be that it's a different language programming. So really to get your path, you can do different things like narrowing it down. How did I do that? I do have that in here. I forget how you do that. I thought I wrote it down. What you want to do is, I'm going to comment this one out because it doesn't like it. For now, we'll just skip it. But you can do file path 1, because it's that same file, is equal to, and we can say right, and start narrowing it down. It's to the right of file path 1, in how many places. And you notice what it's doing, this part's working. It first wanted my string. My string is my file path 1. Now it's asking me length as long. How long? How far do I want to go? Let's try 10. Let's see what I get. And close it. I'm going to comment this one out. And we'll walk through it. Let's stop it and walk through. So you notice what I was doing? I actually got, because I went to the right, I got the right, it went all the way to the right and came back 10 places. So I could go to the left. And I know it entails doing this to get there. You end up building a left and then a right inside, you end up getting your name. But I'd have to go look it up on one of mine to actually get it. Because that's some of the stuff that you just kind of do really? So you watch now, I have my first characters. So there's a way to go like to the dot and come back. But now, one of the things that makes that a little tougher is if you don't use a standard folder. That'll still work because you can go to the dot and come back. If you don't use a standard file length name, all of these have to play into what you do. It all can work. It's just a matter of how difficult it makes you to program that. That's really what it relates to, is how hard it is. So that's really where I planned on stopping, because if I get into this, we can spend a long time just searching for something. I could bring up mine and show you, but it's not going to help you either. It's a search. Literally going through and finding it, or going to the API help. If you can't find it, searching through the SolidWorks help. It's not my first place I go. Like I said, I go on the web first. It's much better. Some of these books, and I know the Mike Spence has that in here of how to get a file name, because that's how I got it, I think, first time. If you're going to write programs, personally, I highly recommend you go to check with your reseller and see if they're offering the course. It's I believe a 2-day course, or at least it was back in 2005 when I took it. And it does help drastically. It gives you a lot of ideas. This was just hopefully wet your palate and say, it's a pain. You got to do some digging, but you can get there. I walked through, I hope, how you guys would go about it. That's what I tried to show you. How I do these. I've gotten so many now, because I've been doing this for so many years, for several companies. I have my little bag of tricks that I can go to for a lot of them. API, I did one that was tough, but you can go out, you can take a bill of material and export it to an XML, so you can import it into an MRP system and save typing it all. I just did that for a company. They were thrilled. It was one of the harder programs I wrote because I'd never gone to an XML file before. Now if I have to go to XML, I'm going to pull that one up and reference it and go through it. And what you'll be surprised is a lot of people will post, if you go to the help, they'll post little pieces to help you. Or they'll ask you, send me what you've got and I'll try to help you. They're really nice on there. SolidWorks community is awesome. They do help. They want to see people succeed, so, take advantage of it. So, well, we're right at noontime. How's that? So, I hope everybody enjoyed it, and if you got questions, thank you. Yes. A lot of ways I get there is by doing that in teletype. The question was if there's ways to look at your libraries. Yes, there is, by doing your IntelliType, but also if you go up, let me stop this. Let me note that. I'll forget. I'll forget why I got that card.
And thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very informative.
Same thing? Yes, I'd be happy to. Sure. I got one a little cleaned up too, especially since I lost part of it. You're welcome. If you just Google like automating SolidWorks book or something, Mike Spence does a lot. Mike Spence is actually teaching one later this week. If you look up under API stuff, and I brought the wrong PowerPoint over because I had these with their times. So what you're looking for, the one by this gentleman, is actually getting started with Visual Basic .NET macros.
Do you have this guy?
Yes, I do. Sure. Oh, there you go. Who else it is? You're welcome. Right from SolidWorks. You're welcome. Sure. Happy to. This is the fun stuff. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can we email?
Sure. I'll send the program to a little cleaner one.
Oh, okay.
Because I have these done. I think I've got these into probably 20 different companies that I've written some form of cleanup. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, like I said, I love the force rebuild, and if you get an error, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
It's just a convenient way to get there. It forces your users. They're stuck. They can't release it. If they can't they can manually make their PDF, but this, if they want to automate it at all and get some customizing, it does it. There's all kinds of things. If you have old templates, you can write macros to swap out your formats and templates. So it's all in playing. And I get frustrated. There's times
And I guess it's a little daunting too if you're not the programmer like I'm.
Right.
So,
Well,
so
like I
just
said,
looking at it.
I was CAD admin for a company back in '05. I was working direct for a company. And they started, hey, can you write some programs for me? And I was like, oh, I don't do that part. And they said, well, we'll send you to the API class. I went to that and I said, well, I don't know API yet. It just gave me not to panic. That's really all it did for me for the most part. And then I started, I bought this book and just started going online. And as you write some, yeah, this one's, well, I think he has a newer. This one's real good. You can see I've got earmarks and I use them all the time. So
All right, well, thank you very
you're
much.
welcome.
Email address to send you because I don't have a card with me to get.
Sure. I can give you one of my cards if you want. Send it to me and I'm happy to.
Excellent.
I said I'll even attach the little a cleaned up program too. I'll work on
That's
it.
what I was looking for was the PDF one to see to play with that one.
Okay. Yeah. Just note that in there and I'll gladly do that.